Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 17 of Project Ozone 3. I want to kick today's episode off with the admintron tablet. Hold on, I have to start by pressurizing my system again. So the problem, one problem with using this coal-based compressor is that it uses a lot of coal. So because I have a lot of speed upgrades in it, burns coal extra fast, and I think it goes through like those 25 stacks in maybe an hour. So you see how quickly it's devouring coal. It may even be faster than that, honestly. So anyways, let me restock our system with some fuel, and we're off to the races. So the admintron tablet. I built this off camera because I needed to use it for a little while, but it just takes a little bit of plastic, right? Everything else we already have access to. To use it though, first you have to charge it in a charging station. So it starts uncharged, you put it in the charging station, and it fills with air. Now, since right now my system doesn't have air and my tablet did have air, it's actually emptying from the tablet. But it can serve as like a air battery of sorts. But anyways, so once you have it charged a little bit, it doesn't have to be fully charged. You right click it and think. I just recently realized that Amazon is wordplay on Amazon and not Andromeda. Anyways, so to use it, you have to first bind it to an item location and a fluid location. So I'm binding it to this fluid tank by shift right clicking. You see how it's selected. You can, any fluid tank is fine. And an item location, let's see, I have this drawer system here bound. Right. So what happens is once you right click it, you can see a list of trades, and it's saying you can trade, you can sell this to receive this. So let's say I need some more oil, which is why I actually used it in the first place. You can sell 1 emerald to receive 1 bucket of oil. So let's see, I think it's right click to increase by 1, shift right click to double. So let's say, I need 256 buckets of oil. I can click the place order button, and what will happen is we can see a little delivery drone. There he comes. Come by and pick up the our diamonds from our drawer, or our emeralds, sorry. The future is now. And he takes a second to get them, and then he leaves. And then what'll happen is over at our fluid location, we should see a drone fly in. There we go. And he drops off our oil. Cool. So now that we have more oil, we can continue running our refinery, which continues to produce plastic, yada yada yada. We have 7 million millibuckets here, if I can read that right. So that's 7,000 plastic sheets of choose your own color. And yeah, let's see. This is another thing that uses up a tremendous amount of coal. The LPG to plastic conversion, likewise, goes through a ton of coal. And an unfortunate side effect of using this item system, like the storage tablet and the storage scanner, is that we don't get like export buses or similar. What I could do is I could run, a conduit all the way from these drawers over to there to automatically export coal. Which I might at some point, but maybe I'll just put it off until applied logistics as well. I don't know. Either way, that is the admintron tablet. Now there's a couple more things I want to do with this. Let's see. Other items we can buy with the admintron tablet include these blueprints or the assembly programs. And as far as I know, the only way to buy these is through the tablet. Technically, you can also sell items. Let's see. You can, I can sell 17 coal for an emerald. So if I have a bunch of coal, which I do, and I need more emeralds, which I don't, but if I did, yeah, we could do that trade. Or like if we need black quartz ore, we can trade. Wait, I don't get it. I can. Why would I ever do this trade when I could do this trade? I don't understand. Anyways, what you can also do if you're on a server, you can list your own trades. It's a little complicated, but you can say, I have, let's see, that's a little laggy. Whatever. There we go. Sorry for the lag. You can list your own items for trade and be like, hey, I have, aluminum ore chunks in excess. Anyone want to buy them for nickel ore chunks? It's not particularly useful as a feature, but it's kind of fun for like roleplay and whatnot. So anyways, yeah, that's the admintron tablet and, shopping, online shopping in Minecraft. So now that our system's charged back up, you see when I put it back in the charging station, it gains pressure. Cool. So as I was saying, I want to go ahead and buy some of these blueprints and assembly programs because the assembly laser I think is where we want to get to next. So in order to do so, right now I'm using the drawers as our item location, and the drawers contain the item to sell, but they can't receive new items. So right, I can't receive the blueprints in there because they're locked. So let me just get a chest out and pull a handful of emeralds. It's nice that this uses emeralds as our resource because we have a lot of them. So after putting some emeralds in the drawer, we can bind that as our item providing location. And we can say, I want one of these, one of these, one of these, and one of these. And I think that's it. Do we happen to need anything else? Are these trades cheaper? Oh, whatever. Alright, so yeah, those are the items I want. I hit place order once again, and, the drone does its thing. So, let's take a look at the quest book. Once we have those, we can, let's see. So we have to make etching acid before we can really move on to the assembly line. Etching acid is made in the pressure chamber. All right, so let's get these resources. Oh, before, let's take a look and see. Here come our assembly programs and our PCB blueprint. Sweet. So far, I don't think we've actually used our pressure chamber to craft anything yet, have we? So let's walk through this. The first thing you want to do is set your item filter on, well, so you have the input side and the output side. You want to set the item filter on the output side. And you want it to, I usually just use item name begins with, the item I want to extract. If you don't do this, any items that get put in will automatically get sucked out immediately. And that's obviously not what you want. On the input side, I usually just leave the filter blank because anything I put in the chest, I want to put into the pressure chamber. So you'll see what happens is whenever I put an item in here, the pressure chamber, well, let's look from the top, maybe we can see better. It'll open. Remember, if you open both doors at once, right, you end up venting all the pressure in here. That's bad. So what happens is it opens the one, it's like an airlock. It opens one side, puts the item in, opens the other side, splits the item into the pressure chamber. Technically, you don't need the interfaces for it. You could literally break the window open, break a side open, throw your stuff in, and then close it again. But in the process, you vent basically all of your air. So this is like not only is it more automation friendly, but it's also, you don't waste as much air in the process. So when it's done, you see it got sucked out through the pressure chamber interface again, and here's our etching acid bucket. You only need one bucket of this. Etching acid is used, we only use it for a little bit to make our first few circuit boards because we unlock a more efficient manner later. So etching acid in hand, let's see, next we need the UV light box. So this is what our PCB blueprint is for. So the UV light box just hooks directly up to air pressure, not like that. Come on, no, come on, you can do this. And I think it only takes air input. I'm honestly not sure how it creates UV light out of air pressure, but I leave that to your imagination. But before we can use it, we have to make these empty PCBs. So those are another thing that's made in the pressure chamber. This takes a bunch of redstone by the looks of it. So we're going to need a lot of these. So let's start with a stack. Unfortunately, they don't stack, so they're a little slow to extract from pressure chambers, but that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and craft up a stack of these. Oh goody, maybe a change was made recently that does make them stack. That's convenient. So once we have empty PCBs. As you see in the tooltip, it says put in a UV light box to proceed. And I think in this step, they don't stack. So you have to put the empty PCB in the UV light box, and you see that it doesn't take much air pressure, but it does take a little air pressure, and it'll slowly, I think it's called, what's it called, etching or something? I don't know. It's shining the light on it in a way that's like making the circuits exist or something. I'm a software guy, not a hardware guy. So anyways, let's get some, I'm pretty sure you can just use hoppers and it has smart IO. Like it'll only output the finished product. Nope, it doesn't have smart IO. So let's let this one run to completion, and then we can use the completed result as a filter. I think it does have smart input, obviously, because it only has one slot. So if this process is also a little too slow for you, you can make some of those speed upgrades. In fact, I think I have some sitting here, unused. I can put these in here, and that'll make the etching process go faster. Do be kind of wary that when you use speed upgrades, it also makes it use a little bit more air. So if you use too many speed upgrades, you might use up too much air. But anyways, this process will take a while, especially because we have to go through an entire stack of them. But that's all right, because once this process is done, we have another somewhat lengthy step, and that is, let's let this one finish before I talk about that. So once it's fully etched, it becomes a empty PCB. We're not fully etched, fully UV lighted, becomes an empty PCB. So I'm going to just use a drawer here as a filter. So, only items matching the exact item in the drawer can be inserted. And let's turn on extract here. Always active. Cool. So, now let's see. Since I don't, I'm actually not sure if empty PCBs stack or not. Let's see. I guess we'll find out once we have a second one. So anyways, I added some more speed upgrades to this because I am a impatient person, and waiting, is not my thing. So anyways, I think the closer you get to 100%, the slower it goes. Technically, you don't have to develop these entirely to 100%. You see that etch success chance just goes up over time. Okay, so they do stack. That's nice. So if you get it up to like 80%, you can etch them at 80%, and well, 80% of the time it'll succeed. So anyways, once you have these empty PCBs, you have to process them into, I think they're called unassembled PCBs. Yeah, so that's done by throwing them into a puddle of etching acid, like in world crafting. Later, once we get the assembly machine, we can directly go from the empty one to the unassembled state. So that's like a shortcut we get once we have a bit more infrastructure. But for now, we have to do it, the old-fashioned way, I suppose. And this method cannot fail, whereas this one, if you don't fully UV light it, can. So anyways, let's set up somewhere to do that. Again, this is only temporary, so I'm not going to bother making it look nice. Not that I bother making permanent things look nice either, so, whatever. Anyways, let's just do it right. Actually, no, I don't want to put it here, because I don't know if it's affected by heat. Right here. Nice and symmetrical. So just throw your etching acid in. I don't think you want to step in this. It gives you poison or something. Well, it would give you poison if I didn't have a Ring of Odin. And throw these in there. They take 5 minutes to fully etch, and the good news is the items don't despawn, so you don't have to worry about them, because Minecraft item despawn timer is normally 5 minutes. So anyways, going through the rest of the stack will take quite a while. So in the meantime, let's work on something else. Before we can actually use these unassembled PCBs, we have to assemble them with transistors and capacitors. So let's craft these. Transistors look like they need... That's not bad. We're going to need a lot of Ender IO capacitors. So, let's see. I'm thinking, is there like some... Do I need enough of these that I want to set up a dedicated assembly line for it? Or do I just want to batch craft them for now? And because setting up an assembly line will be so much work, I'm thinking maybe we'll just batch craft them. Let's make sure there's nothing that'll get us in here. Yikes. So each melodic capacitor takes 2 crystalline capacitors, which take two of the either octate. Let's just use this set. Take two octadic capacitors. So we're at, hold on, let's count. 2 crystalline, 4 octadic, 8 double layer, 16 basic capacitors, and 32 grainy capacitors to make a single melodic capacitor, which makes a single pneumatic craft capacitor. That's fine. Make a single pneumatic craft capacitor, which we need 3 of those to make printed circuit boards. Yikes. For the time being, I'm going to start by batch crafting them, although I definitely see a world in which we'll want to move on to assembly line style crafting later. So before we get too far into that rabbit hole, I want to take a look at our grains of infinity situation. So we've been creating it with this, dispenser, lighting our bedrock on fire, our one piece of starting bedrock, and we have like 56 stacks of it. But if you remember before, it was like, I think it was a stack and a half of grainy capacitors to make a single of the high tier capacitor that we need. So we're going to need more than 56 stacks. So I think it's time to upgrade our grains of infinity system. Luckily, the easiest way to do that is to use fire water, which our mob farm produces in excess. So if we look at this, it doesn't even say a percentage, but what happens if you just let it sit over bedrock, it'll reasonably quickly even just produce grains of infinity for us. So let's get a couple buckets of this, maybe 4 for the time being. And I'm trying to think of what dimension I want to put it in. I mean, we have easy bedrock access in all of these dimensions. Okay, let's put it in the hunting dimension. I think that's just because the bedrock is at it's easiest to access here. So we need access to a relatively large area of bedrock, and I figure what better tool for the job than our friendly destruction gadget. So I think it's only a little deep, or let's see, I need depth, a little bit of that, and large. I think this is how I want it to go. Okay. Too big. There we go. That's not quite it. That's it, I think. So 8 by 8 by, or 16 by 16 by 6 deep. Yep. And sure, here's good as place as any. Alright, so my lantern of paranoia is lighting this up for us very conveniently, but all we have to do now is take these fire water buckets, place them down somewhere remotely reasonable, and over time this will gradually just spit out grains of infinity, I expect. Let's give it a minute and see how many we get. Alright, it's been somewhere around a minute and we have 6. So if we assume this little thing produces 6 a minute, that's a bit faster than what our old system used to. So I mean, I guess I'll call that a win. If we have to, we can expand it by just adding more buckets of fire water. I kind of wish I set this up earlier, but oh well, here we have it. So yeah, this is like once you have access to a large sheet of bedrock and some fire water, this is an extremely easy way to produce grains of infinity. Thankfully, the advanced item collector here has quite a bit of range, so it's able to pick up all the drops, even from the far corners. In the time we're setting that up, I suspect our PCBs are done etching. But we, again, as I mentioned, we can't use these until we make our transistors and capacitors. A side note to emphasize the importance of having strong infrastructure before you try to do something like this. This redstone drawer was full like 5 minutes ago, right? 6,144 stacks. I've used 900 stacks of redstone, mostly on this red iron compound to make the red alloy ingots to make these grainy capacitors. So I think we said it was stack and a half of these to make a single melodic capacitor. Each one of these takes 8 redstone. So, we're going deep into exponential growth territory here, right? we're looking at 12 stacks of redstone to make a single one. And it takes 3 of these to make a single PCB. It takes 3 of them. So yeah, it takes a lot of redstone. That's why I'm super glad we've had this running for a long time. And in fact, we're maybe at the point where even we have to run this faster if we continue to consume redstone at thousands of stacks per minute. So I've used up all of our grainy capacitors, and I've crafted them up to the energetic silver tier. Or sorry, to the regular silver tier. We have this many of them. I'm not about to count how many stacks that is. But to get them to the next tier, we now need to do it on the Empower. And with this much Empower work, I think we're going to have to somehow run this in parallel. But first, we have to produce a lot of energetic silver. So I'm thinking, because we need a lot of this, and then the next step requires a lot of vivid alloy, let's actually set up a small assembly line where we can just throw in raw materials and it'll produce, energetic silver and vivid alloy for us. Well, it's a bunch of machines, and she sure as hell is ugly, but this setup will automatically produce energetic silver and vivid alloy for us as long as we provide inputs. So I guess I could probably more clearly label what's input output, but we input gold ore and silver ore. They get smelted into their ingot forms. They get combined into electrum. We also input electrotine and glowstone dusts, which get smelted together with that electrum to make energetic silver, which is one of the outputs. So I wonder how I can label these. Maybe I can use like frame drawers, and we'll put the outputs in frame drawers. Anyways, that's one of the outputs. The next step then is we take cobalt ore, which also comes from sifting netherrack. We smelt that into cobalt ingots. Then we put that through another alloy smelter that uses some of the energetic silver. So as I produce it here, I split it off 50-50. Right? I extract with round robin mode. Half of it gets stored, at least until our storage gets full. The other half gets sent to the next alloy smelter, where it gets smelted with ender pearls, which we provide as input, and cobalt ingots, and it produces vivid alloy. So this setup, what is it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 machines, produces vivid alloy for us, which we can use in the process of which we can use to make energetic silver capacitors and then energized capacitors. So as I mentioned, to support the extremely high amount of empowering we're going to have to do, I set up just a second empower, and I very well might do a third for the time being. So I have this one making energetic silver capacitors. This one is making empowered diamantine, which is a component in in crystalline alloy, I believe. Yeah. So I need a bit of that. And I think we're getting pretty close then to be able to make the crystalline capacitor, which is, the second from the end? We're close. So I was still thinking about ways to make our crafting faster, because dear God, is this taking forever. And I remembered something. Ender IO loot capacitors can be crafted together in an anvil to make some really good capacitors. And honestly, I have no clue how this logic works. I think what it does is it takes all the keywords. So if you press there in the MBT data, it says, incredible, hungry, premium, insatiable, impossible, and it combines them with this one. So premium, clean cut, wonder. So you get like, I think because it has premium on both of them, that one doesn't stack, but you get incredible, hungry, insatiable, impossible, clean cut, wonder capacitor. Am I right? I think that's what it did. So yeah, I think what it does is it basically combines the keywords of the two, and you can this one becomes 475 global. This one global level 5.7. So I want to try it out, see how good it is in our machines. So here's an alloy smelter. Let's see, I already have one that I just made of 5.06. So let's start with a regular capacitor, just for reference. A regular tier 3.5 capacitor is 292. So when we upgrade that to our super duper capacitor, it's like 3 times as fast, at least. Well, 3 times as much energy consumption. I don't know if that's actually 3 times as fast. Let's try to have it smelt something. Well, that is crazy. So yeah, for those of you that have a loot capacitor farm, go ahead and start experimenting with jamming them together to see how fast, how good an overall capacitor you can make. So here I already have a 477. I can upgrade to a 5.06, which is, it's faster, a lot faster. So yeah, by doing this, we can upgrade our alloy smelters, especially those that we use for on-demand crafting, to be a lot faster. And that'll do wonders for my sanity. So with one of our very good capacitors in our sag mill, it processes stuff in 1 tick. So the coal to pulverized coal, this is awesome. I love it. After much trials and tribulations, and mostly just waiting for machines, we are ready to make transistors. Now, of the 2 transistors and capacitors, transistors are the much easier one. So, we're kind of sort of halfway there. We just put all our inputs into that input chest, and we should pretty soon observe, yep, they're being dumped into our pressure chamber. Once they're all in here, they'll craft. Cool. So, next up are capacitors, which again require these stupid melodic capacitors. We're almost at the end. So close. Next, we need to make the melodic alloy, which is a component in melodic capacitors. And that takes landium ingots. I think in the long term, we'll end up getting these from a root farm when we spawn the one of the landium bosses for the or one of the landcraft bosses to get the other ingots they drop. But for the time being, I set up a small thing. Let's turn you off for now. Let's kill these. So the way this works is this is just a simple RF tools, or not RF, NDIO powered spawner set to the landlord mob. And we now actually have our first form of wireless RF transfer, at least significant wireless RF transfer. And that's the power cell. So the RF Tools power cell takes RF Tools machine frames, which we just unlocked by making transistors. Thank God. So that makes the mechanism machine frames, which make RF Tools machine frames. So the good news, or the excellent news about this, is it actually unlocks all of RF Tools, including stuff like the builder, the shield generator, etc., etc. But for now, we have the power cell. And if you make multiple power cells and link them with these power cell cards, they act as a virtual multi-block. So it's as if they're, physically touching each other, even if they're not. So we have one power cell here. Turn it back on, and we'll get out of here before the landlords come after us. And then I have the other power cell sitting down here, taking in energy. So this one's an input, that one's an output. And that allows us to wirelessly transfer energy to that spawner, which is allowing us to get, let's see, the main thing we're after here are these landium ingots. Now that mob also drops tungsten and emeralds, so I guess, added bonus, we get some tungsten and emeralds. But, yep, once we get, I think it'll take like 2 or 3 stacks of landium ingots, and we'll be done. It's happening. We're almost there. Faster, 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 faster. Alright, pressure chamber. Make the thing. Did you do it? I think it did it. Let's see. Give me the thing. Hallelujah. 1 stack of capacitors. Exact. All that effort, and it got us 1 whole stack. But that's alright. With this, we now finally have the means to make printed circuit boards. I'll just make them as we need them. 1 for now to complete the quest, and that unlocks the entire assembly line. But I think this episode has dragged on long enough. You wouldn't believe it, but I think I've spent like 3 to 4 hours recording this episode. It's definitely been the longest one so far in Project Ozone. But anyways, what actually that tells me is that I think I went about stuff pretty inefficiently. I think I could have taken perhaps another route or taken some detours perhaps into mystical agriculture that would have made some of these steps a little easier and take less time. But nonetheless, I've done what I've done and here we are. So let's wrap up this episode here. I'll be back tomorrow when we can put these hard-earned printed circuit boards to use making our assembly machines. Cool. So, yep, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.